There we go. Okay. So as I said, we're gonna wait for a couple of minutes. As everyone can see, we're gonna keep this super casual, relaxed, get tons of tips from Todd, from Adam. Adam is already super relaxed and making us all jealous. I'm here in my office with the AC blasting, but I wouldn't mind some sea breeze at this point.
I wouldn't mind some aircon either.
It's always the thing that you don't have, huh?
Uh-huh.
Right. Okay. People are joining. Let me see the poll. Hi, Zara. Okay, I'll stop the screen sharing at this point. We also have the question going. There's already some answers coming in. And yeah, and we're ready to start. Hi, Irene. Hi, Karen. Nice to see you here. Let's get the conversation going. So again, we're here to talk about pitches and proposals, which seems to be, I think, one of the top of mind questions and issues and challenges when it comes to agency and agency founders. And that's why we decided to do this. People's reactions have been great. So it's obvious that this really needs to be a conversation, and people are very hungry for advice on this area, which is why we got Todd, who's an agency owner and has tons of experience in this area, and Adam, the CEO of Better Proposals, who's worked with so many clients and so many agencies. I don't know the number, but I'm sure it's huge. So I'm gonna ask each of them to introduce themselves for a bit, so everyone gets to know them and their experience. And yeah, we can get started with the discussion afterwards. Why don't you start, Todd?
Cool. So my name's Todd from Spaghetti Agency. We're a small agency. To give you some context, there's a team of 10 of us here. We're a digital marketing agency, predominantly content, but we do social media as well, which is why we love Planable. We do paid advertising, things like that as well. Our audience is fairly diverse. And since COVID, since we found Better Proposals, actually, we've completely changed our sales process and how we do stuff. I live on Zoom. Most of my pitches are on Zoom. And I never send a proposal without them seeing it first. That's my top tip.
Okay, what about you, Adam?
That's cool. Yeah, so my name's Adam. I'm the founder and CEO of Better Proposals, which is an online proposal creation platform, which essentially replaces that laborious Word, horrible thing you have to do in Word, which is creating a proposal, typing it up, making it line up, formatting it. And then obviously replaces the concept of a PDF as well. Get things signed online, guide your clients through a really nice sort of smooth onboarding process. So really it's that sort of, it's taking you from that ask of, do you want to work with us, right the way through to them actually being sort of like a fully onboarded client, and the process and everything in between. I think we're at around 11,000 customers now around the world. Most of them seem pretty happy. So lots and lots and lots of incredible results over the years. Lots of stories exactly like Todd's, which is people sort of taking Better Proposals and implementing it into their business, and seeing some really nice streamlined results. I suppose I'll give you my top tip as well. Avoid a PDF. That would be my top tip: is get rid of PDFs. Do not use them. Definitely don't send them to your clients when you're asking for money.
Okay, perfect. Thanks so much, both of you. I'll also take a moment to introduce myself, because I realized I completely forgot about that aspect. I'm Miruna. I'm the CMO here at Planable. I've been with the company for the past almost 7 years now. Planable is a social media collaboration tool. It's very geared toward agencies that do social media for their clients. It's a space where You can create, collaborate, and approve your content, and of course, make it live. And yeah, my experience with pitches and proposals in agencies per se is not that vast, which is why I'm moderating this conversation. But I guess I have, in working in a startup means a lot of hats, and one of those hats is talking to clients every now and then, and some of it is selling. So I've sent up my fair share of proposals and pitches in general and had those sales conversations. So yeah, I'll be coming from that angle with some of the questions. Right. Okay. We already have a question. We'll definitely, by the way, for the attendees, we'll moderate the questions all throughout. So feel free to drop them as you go. I'll be sure to keep an eye on the Q&A section and prompt them up. Cool. So let's start by talking about good stories, happy stories, to put a smile on our faces. Pitches that really went great, that landed a major client. This one is for you, Todd. If you have one of these epic stories in which you used a pitch that really seemed to do the trick to convince the client. And yeah, what do you think? What was the thing that made it work?
I think the thing that has worked for the clients that I've won recently, and since we've embedded better proposals into it, is to not sell. Because when I go up against other agencies, they go in with their slide deck and their pitch and all of their stuff they're going to sell, and they've got a predetermined thing that they're going to sell them. Whereas we don't do that. We go in and say, this call is about this. If we feel like we can work together, we'll book another meeting. It's just a conversation. And we spend probably half an hour, 45 minutes across 2 calls, just listening to them. Like, do you actually need our help? And we're very choosy, we're very picky, we're very annoying in that first stage, but we're polite about it and say, look, we might not be a good fit. I don't want to waste your time. You probably don't want to waste ours. And what we find works really, really well is just asking them, what do you need? To give you an example, like most clients that come to us asking us for, let's say, social media, end up having Google advertising. Or most clients that come to us and want a new website actually just need more copywriting. So I think the overall success for us, which I've had to learn because I'm a bit of a talker, is actually to shut up occasionally and listen and ask a question and then shut up again, because you learn so much from speaking to people and actually asking them with the intent to actually listen to the response. And that's really, really helped us in how we build the proposals, which we'll probably get into later. Yeah,
it's interesting what you said about listening more and spending the conversation as a normal conversation. And I'm curious, I feel like you'd be tempted to give advice at this point, right? And there's 2 things. Like, first of all, do you give it at all? Does that count as not listening? And second, is that because I know there used to be this myth about, service providers and how, not to give too much for free or give a lot more for free and all that debacle.
Well, in our marketing, I give everything away for free. So all of our knowledge or advice, our stuff with our short form videos, our blogs, our emails, I give it all away for free, all of it. Because quite frankly, you've heard of Google, you've heard of ChatGPT, you'll find the information if you're that way inclined. So my approach to it has always been, if you're going to go and do it yourself, you're going to go and find the information. It may as well come from me. So I always give information away for free. But in the proposals and in a pitch and a conversation, I don't do that. I spend all the time gathering information, because they may leave thinking they've got enough information to do it themselves, which is often a disservice to them. And also, when you're selling and you're telling, you're not listening, so you're not gathering the information. So yeah, I think you should give away information for free, but not in that sales pitch. You should listen and work out, where are they at, where do they want to get to, and can you help them get there?
Yeah, got it.
I'd agree with that a lot. And one of the things that I've always found, sort of doing a lot of proposal review over the years, is the amount of generic information that's always in proposals. And it's so abundantly obvious how, like, generic information is just so clear. It's so obvious. We've all seen it a million times. But when you ask really good questions in the meeting and you do that discovery, and exactly as Todd said, you learn to shut up, you listen, and try to almost get comfortable listening, like staying silent past a certain point of being uncomfortable. And if you can do that, that's usually where the gold is. That's usually where that last little bit that kind of Do you know what I mean? Like, it's
Totally agree.
uncomfortable for you to stay silent. It's uncomfortable for them to talk about it, but it's actually, that's the bit they really want to say.
Yeah.
And if you can get to that point with them, I mean, that's game over really at that point. And then really it's just about communicating that to them and not barraging them with a load of old nonsense, but just keeping it simple.
How should those insights that you get from those moments of silences translate into personalization afterwards in the actual proposals? How personalized should you get? And yeah, what should you personalize in general, besides the price, of course, and the services and all of that?
Yeah, so from my perspective, I think that if you over personalize, you'll end up spending too much time on each proposal, and then it's not worth it, right? So it's essentially a game of picking your battles. I think you want to try, without coming across like a better proposals pitch, if you've got your stuff organized, then obviously this becomes a hell of a lot easier. You always want to be personalizing your introduction, right? And by the introduction, that could be your executive summary, whatever you want to call it, but really it's the first meaningful bit of text that they're going to read. So they click through your cover or whatever it is, and it's that first bit. That's always the bit that's going to get the most mental traction. So if you can summarize everything in that section, you're a winner. So that's well worth personalizing. Obviously the pricing, I would try and personalize chunks after that. So choosing a case study, for example, and say you had like a bank of 8 or 9 case studies, you're not going to write a new one each time, but you might personalize which one you choose. So yes, there's a bit of an upfront effort to get that in there, but it's 2 seconds to choose which one. You're personalizing in chunks rather than in words. Right. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, totally agree. That's what we do. I mean, the intro, to go back to Maruna's comment, like the information we gather, we use their exact language, their exact words and the phrases, the metaphors, the analogies they use right in the front, because they recognize themselves in the proposal. And it's not some marketing trick. It's like, I listened to you and I gave a shit and I put it in a proposal. Like, I actually wanted to listen to you. And then just like Adam said, like in better proposals, we've got all the templates in the content library. So if they want Google Ads and social media, we'll click those 2 things and drop them in. And then we just have a couple of things in there that are in huge block capitals. It looks horrendous. And it says, please replace this text with something relevant. So we just replace those tiny little bits. And obviously the price, but usually it's the same sort of price anyway. But it's that first bit. And I'm obsessed with the analytics in better proposals, as I am in Planable, as I am everywhere else. And I'm always fascinated by the different types of people and how long they linger in different bits in better proposals. And that introduction is the bit that gets a lot of traction. And then for larger companies, the T's and C's, they spend hours on it. But it's that introduction, you can actually see their interest.
Could have guessed the TNCs. I was gonna ask, don't they like sit and highlight every little detail put in there?
Unless they download the PDF, then my game's over and it ruins it.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how little people read the terms and conditions. But what's usually interesting is when you get a notification saying that somebody's reading the proposal and then they go straight to the T's and C's 4 months after you've started working with them. That's never usually a great sign. That's not great. That's not great, but it's good to know. It's good to know if it's going to happen, because at least you can get your stuff together.
Yeah, I bet that kind of insight can really help with retention. Like just something a bit to maybe not prevent it, but to intervene a bit sooner than they were ready to share their grievances.
Yeah. Well, let's just say, for example, you've got a client where, I don't know, let's just say for argument's sake, you've built a website for them and you're in that kind of final stages, you're snagging it or they're snagging it, you're doing the work, and there's that weird little tension point where you think, isn't really included, but all right, well, I want to keep the good relationships. You're at that kind of weird tension point. If you got a notification saying that they were opening the proposal up and then they were looking at all the specification and the details of exactly what you're to provide, that's kind of interesting. Like, okay, right, they're trying to look to see, what their options are. Yeah, what's included, what their options are. So it's just that little thing can just give you a little bit of a heads up as where they might be at mentally.
Okay, yeah, that sounds super interesting. Yeah, it's got me super intrigued. When I hear about data and insights like this, I'm like all ears and eyes. Cool. Okay, let's move on a bit to the less positive part of the whole proposal thing, the objections and the fears and the things that make people hesitate or say no. First of all, what are those? What are the most common objections? And then we can get a bit into how we treat them.
Yeah, shall I go?
Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
go for it.
From an agency perspective, usually objection is price. That's a common one. So we talk about that on our first call. We sense check the budget straight away, because there's no point in having 3 or 4 conversations, create a proposal, send the proposal, and then they say, oh, it's too expensive. So we always talk about that like right up front. The other thing could just be that you're not a good fit with each other. So we reject and they reject quite early on. Those that are watching the webinar, like our brand is Wild West. So we have had people that have inquired to work with us and then realized that our brand is based on the Wild West and we're cowboys, and they're like, oh, I just couldn't work with cowboys. And well, that's fine. You know, that's our kind of filter. So it's usually price and fit for us. When we have gone up against other agencies, other companies, then those two things come into it in a different way. You know, sometimes we're reassuringly expensive, sometimes we're far too cheap because they're going for a big London agency, and it, you know, it is based on what they're looking for. But we try and sense check that at the beginning before we even get to a proposal stage, really.
We just got a bit of a comment in the chat, and I was going to ask the exact same thing. When you ask about budgets, Jillian says, you know, you get a lot of pushback when asking about budgets, that they haven't really worked with an agency, or that they don't know what the budget should be, or that they don't know what the budget is, that they'll go to management afterwards and just ask for the budget. And if it gets approved, fine. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Do you have any particular way in which you ask this question, or any, if you get a no, any other angle in which you can approach it from?
Yeah, I mean, we're very upfront about it from the start. So our first phone call that my partner Joe does, we work out what they're after, whether they're the decision maker or whether we need a decision maker on the next call, and what's their budget. And if they're not the decision maker and they don't have a budget and they're not really that bothered, then we just end the call, really, not politely, but we're like, why are you on this phone call with us? Why are you in this pitch? If they take you through 3 or 4 stages and all this, and they still don't know what the budget is, I'm not into that game. I know that other companies will do that. But we just don't do it.
Okay, so you never bring up the money on your end first. Like, you never give a range of, look, this is what it would cost you. Does that fit your budget?
Kind of, yeah. So we'll say to them, do you have a budget in mind? And they'll say, you know, yeah, $5,000. I'm going, oh, that's great. You know, that will cover you for X, Y, Z, or have you considered this? So we'll have those conversations fairly broad, and then say, right, then we'll put something together based on that budget, and work out what they're looking for. So we're very upfront about it, because money makes the world go round. There's no point in hiding it and making it, it's kind of dark art. It's a surprise at the end. Well, hey, this is how much it is. I mean, that's just stupid. Why would you do that? So.
Right. Okay. Adam, sorry, you wanted to say something too, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think the budget thing's a really interesting one. I mean, yeah, I think exactly as Todd's alluding to, like, if you've got a situation where somebody is really, really negative about it, they don't want to share it or whatever. I mean, to me, that would say inexperience in buying high-priced items. So if you sell anything above low and somebody doesn't want to share a budget with you, that budget thing's been around a pretty long time. Like, that budget question, it's been around a while. It's pretty normal stuff. So if somebody's freaking out over the concept of sharing a budget, what else is that telling you? It's probably telling you that they've not been in the situation they're currently in before. So nobody's ever asked them about the budget. They are probably embarrassed about what the answer will be, which usually is going to tell you that it's probably not a good number. And do you really want someone that's got no money and hasn't been in an experience where they're buying stuff before? Probably not. Like, you might, and that might be the level you're playing at, and that's absolutely fine. You can do it. If you can coach people through that, perfect. But if you're trying to just get stuff done and work with professionals who have got an active problem with a budget to solve the problem, probably not what you want. So in a weird way, it doesn't matter what the answer is. If they tell you a number and the number works, great. If they tell you a number and the number doesn't work, also fine. Politely decline it. And if they get funny about it, that's a no too. So it's actually a good filtering exercise rather than about getting the number.
Yeah,
right.
Agree. We go for the no. That's what we do. You know, we go for the no or the yes. There's no point in lingering it out. There's no point.
Yeah, killing the hope fast sometimes is a lot of a better feeling than just maybe. But maybe there's a gold mine hidden right after that. I don't know about the budget answer. Right. Okay. What about other objections, Adam? In your experience, are there, besides the price, anything else? I don't know, ROI, not convinced enough, timing, anything that pops up frequently?
So usually they're not necessarily, they're more just things you never uncovered in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So the main reason people aren't going to buy things is because they don't have the money for it, or they just don't understand it. So if you're selling something that's technical, website, okay, most people have got their idea around social media stuff now, but if you've got complicated stuff that you're selling and you've put complicated jargon littered throughout your proposal, that's confusing. If you've got really complicated, tiered pricing or something like that, it's complicated, it's confusing. Someone's sitting there looking at your pricing, working out if they can fit that into their marketing budget or whatever it is that they're trying to do. And they're like, I don't get this. Like, confused people don't buy things.
Yeah.
It's probably the easiest way to think of it. Confused people don't buy things. Nobody's confused and then goes, oh, perfect, and just hands the credit card over. It just never happens. So look, a good test for this just might be like the mum test, someone or someone that's over your age group that doesn't understand tech, and just see if they can figure it out. And do you know what I mean? It's not exact science, but it will give you an idea of what isn't clear. And that's often a good one. So remembering that confused people don't buy things. Keep your pricing as simple as you can get away with it. As simple as you can get away with it. I'd opt for less profit and clearer pricing if I could. Like, I'd actually take those two things, because I think in the end you'll sell more just by simply having simplified pricing. And industry is atrocious for this. If anyone's ever bought IT systems like servers, like loads of computers and stuff like that for offices, they are the worst, but by far the worst. So if you've got any of those like quotes lying around from sort of like an IT quote or something like that, look at that for an example of what not to do.
Right. Yeah, I was thinking about the timing issue and about the back and forth that happens throughout this entire process. I personally heard a lot of times that, we went, like for Planable, we went into a conversation, we pitched Planable, we explained, everything went well, the trial, the demo, everything, but then it's not the right time. And for us personally, I'm assuming it happens a lot to agencies as well. People come to you. You don't necessarily, we do the marketing and everything, but people book the demo. They want to get in touch. They say they're ready and then they're not. And of course, I can relate. I've stopped acquisition process like this in the past. Like, wait, it feels like I'm learning more about it and it doesn't feel like the right fit, or it's more of a budget than I thought it would be, and so on. I'm wondering if any of these timing related objections can be prevented, and how more in the qualifying process and the conversations.
And we do that as part of our first call. When are you looking to get this completed? So I had a sales conversation with someone today. They want a new website. When do you want the new website for? Ideally go live in September. I could have stopped there, but I asked them why. Why do you want it live in September? What's wrong with the other one? Would October be okay? And they're like, no, it needs to be done in September. Whereas sometimes you ask people, oh, it doesn't really matter when. And it's like, I'm a bit more cautious of that one because there's no real deadline to it. And we've all done it. We've been tasked by someone on our team to shop around. I mean, we may have done it to Planable.
Yeah.
Sorry, I may have done it to Better Proposals. I don't know, because I wasn't part of the process. But you do that, He's going to jump off his boat now. We didn't, Adam. I think we signed up immediately.
Just to explore other options, right? Or what?
You just keep your options open. But as an agency, very much speaking from an agency here, because that's all I can do, is speak from my own experiences. If you're looking to work with 3 agencies, usually you're making a big decision, so you've had a thought around it. But there are people that shop around. I tell you the worst thing, and this happened to me many years ago, and I've never forgotten it. I went all the way down to London for this pitch, and they were just checking prices. They were always going to stick with the agency they were with, always. And I realized that the moment I went in the room, they weren't interested in anyone else. They were just saying to them, we're sniffing around, pull your socks up, do a better job. We're going to give you the tender for another 3 years or whatever. And they just, there's a bit of that. So sometimes, I don't want to be a third wheel. So I'm very open to it. I'm very open in the conversation. It suits our brand. No bull, just beef. I just say it. But I think it cuts a lot of time, our time and their time, stops people messing around. And people are really nice about it too. It's not like they leave our pitches, sales calls thinking, well, bunch of arseholes they are. They're like, this is quite refreshing. You actually just said how it was. And then everyone saves time. But I think we're all guilty of it. So you've got to be aware of it. Ask the question.
Yeah.
Timing's an interesting one. I think you do just gain a sixth sense for it over time. I mean, I've been selling stuff in various forms for about 25 years now. So like, you just know. It's just one of those things. It just comes with time, comes with age, comes with experience, and just the number of just sheer meetings you sit in front of and people you sit in front of. You just get a feeling for it, and you just know when someone's kind of trying, sort of doing that, just tire kicking and that type of stuff. But also at the same time, you do also get a bit of a sixth sense for when somebody is really up for it. And you can ask great questions, exactly as Todd said, like, why then, or why not now, or why in the future, why not leave it, and why not leave it is a really good one, because it forces them to do the opposite, which is go, no, we need it now because, and then that's going in the proposal, right? Because that's a real genuine reason. So actually trying to use a bit of reverse psychology in a way to suggest to them it's not that important gets them to go, no, it is, and here's why, and that is obviously then the reason that they're going to end up buying from you. So again, forcing their hand.
I guess if they're convinced by that, why you don't really need it from a second, that tells you that they weren't convinced enough from the get-go.
Yeah, by asking them why not now, they do exactly what Adam said. They'll say, no, I do need it now. And the one person you listen to the most in all of your life is yourself. So if you're on a call talking to a stranger, go, no, I need it, you've just bought into it. And it's not trickery, because if you do need it now, that's what you'll say. This isn't some kind of sleazy sales technique. It's just like, most people are in autopilot. Most people are, I'm in a sales call. Like, everyone's done this. You walk into a clothes shop, someone comes up, do you need any help? No. Well, what are you doing in the clothes shop then? Like, why are you in a clothes shop? Have you come to buy a burger? No, you've come to buy some clothes. I don't want any help. Oh, why have I said that? Do you want a receipt? No, it's all autopilot. So when you ask them like random questions and pattern interrupts, they break that, and then you get the actual human being. And I find it fascinating. I really do. I love sales. I just find it such a fascinating thing, because nearly everyone turns up to sales in autopilot. I'm going to be sold to. I need to go into a sales pitch kind of protect them mode, and I haven't got a budget and I can't make a decision. And it's all bollocks, really. You ask the right questions, you get the information out of them.
Yeah, that's true. Just have to be persistent and bold enough. And remember, it's just a conversation with another human being.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a question in the Q&A that I want to tackle and kind of use it to even broaden it a bit. So the question is, which is better when sending a proposal to a client? Is it a short pitch or a long pitch? And to expand to that, I'd like to talk a bit about common mistakes and definite no-nos when it comes to pitches.
Okay, so short versus long. So I'm going to give you the cop-out answer first, then I'm going to explain it. So the cop-out answer is it should be the appropriate length. And I'll follow that up by saying, if you are doing an incredibly complicated build for something, or it's super in-depth, and you sent them a one-pager, how in-depth would that feel? How appropriate would that feel? Probably not quite right. It would feel like you've undercooked your proposal. You haven't got enough detail in there. You haven't justified it enough, what have you. But maybe if you've worked with that client for 15 years and they know everything about you, and they've turned around and said, can you do this for us? And you say, yep, cool, here's a one-pager. You know how we work. You don't need a case study. You don't need anything else. You know how our payment stuff works. Boom, crack on. It might be just fine. So the same item, should we say, the same service to two completely different people, two different situations can provide something completely different. But again, it's a sliding scale of the relationship that you have with that particular person. I think that makes a massive difference. How well do they know you? What other stuff do you need to include? If they know you do good work, you probably don't need case studies. It would be overkill. But then it's a complexity sliding scale on what you're selling them as well. So if you're selling them something really, really simple and easy, a very, very quick social media update perhaps, or a new load of header graphics, it's simple to get your head around. There's no complexity, there's no confusion, there's no back and forth. It's a simple graphic design job. You probably don't need a massive proposal with it. So I would say it needs to be appropriate. If you're doing like a full service for someone, you probably just need to make sure you've got a bit of everything in there. And if you've got a bit of everything in there, you're generally going to be covered. So that's your introduction, what you're going to do, some sort of social proof, your pricing, ideally something like a guarantee or whatever, but your T's and C's as well. And most importantly, your next steps. And if you've got those bits in there, they don't have to be massive, each bit, but as long as you've got poor bits in there, you can scale them down accordingly.
Yeah, I agree. And just to add to that, the way I look at it is people have different disc profiles, different learning profiles. People prefer to watch videos, read content. So we try and make sure that our proposal will appeal to them. If we don't know, then we'll make sure that we've put, all the detail, but a short summary. We also use bullet points and subheadings in the proposals anyway. And for some people who I know that are just very high D on a disc profile that won't read the proposal at all, I'll just put a quick 30-second video in it instead. And just go, here's everything I said we do, here's some bullet points, here's a video. The rest of the stuff is in there so they can go and check it because their team can go through it. And the T's and C's that no one ever reads are in there. You've got to have that stuff. But yeah, once they're on board as a client, sometimes it's just an email. Although we have embedded better proposals into our system now, so I get slapped whenever I do that because it ruins things. But yeah, it kind of depends. I wouldn't read a long proposal, but that doesn't mean I shouldn't send a long proposal because some people like details. So I'll try and factor that first one in to either match them or to kind of cover the bases a bit.
Right. Okay. So talking about mistakes, I've mentally recorded some of the mistakes that you've said so far. So Adam, you started with never a PDF. Todd, you mentioned always listen and don't yap around throughout all the meetings. We've talked about making it too long or inadequately in terms of length, too complex. Any other big mistake that you see or hear about agencies doing it frequently? I can speak of one, by the way, as the end client of what I really hate when I talk to potential agencies. And that is when I'm being spoken to in a condescending tone. Like when the agency assumes I have no idea what their expertise is, like I'm not at all, I have no experience in whatever their service is. And they're explaining it to me from very basics. It's not about ego for me. I don't get upset because I want them to understand that I'm smart, but I get upset because I feel like they're ruining their own pitch because they devalue the level of expertise that I now give them credit for. Because if they're explaining the basics to me, then it doesn't feel like this is going to work out. So yeah.
I have a question I always ask at the beginning of how much do you understand about SEO, or how much do you know or want to know about this? Like, because often I have done this in the past, literally what you're explaining. I start explaining something and then realize they're like some sort of tech developer of 50 years and I'm just teaching them about WordPress. And you've lost, haven't you, really? Because you've just made them feel ridiculous, or they look at you and think, well, you could have asked, So yeah. I think it's a big one. I just asked, how much do you know, or what do you want to know about it? Again, it's questions. You've got to, when you're in the pitch process, you've got to get to know them. It's the rapport building thing for me. It's really important.
Okay.
And a really easy to fix one is time. How long it takes you to send a proposal. It's the easiest way to screw it up, honestly. Try and imagine you're in a meeting with somebody, virtual or otherwise, and they're like, you've all been there. Everyone listening has sat in a meeting and you felt that excitement. It's gone well. You've got a great rapport with them. You can fix their problems. They're excited about it. They're not just trying to fix that thing. They're already on to the next thing. Like you know what that feels like. It's just such a good feeling. And you leave and they're like, yeah, perfect. Great. Get the proposal over. Can't wait to get started. And then you get home and you have a screaming kid, or you sit down and play the Xbox or whatever, and you get distracted. And then all of that real proper detail that you knew that you could put in the proposal, you could like relay back to them, exactly as Todd was saying, like use their words, their phrase, their situation, use it in their language. All of that goes. And then a couple of days goes by and you think, oh, well, it's Friday. I'll get it to them for Monday, or I'll do it over the weekend. Before you know it, it's been 5, 6, 7 days. Their enthusiasm has just done that. It's gone. And then you send it to them and all of a sudden they've got a million other things to do. So we ran some data. In fact, we've done this over the last 5 or 6 years. And we found that one of the things we've asked is basically, we're trying to find out from a data perspective, what's the effect of getting your proposal created and sent within 24 hours. And what we found is it's like 50% better compared to like a week, which is just nuts. So the simplest, you've got to do it anyway. So so really, if you want to just make sure you improve that conversion rate as much as you can, just get the proposal done as quick as possible.
Yeah,
Easy.
totally
it's
agree.
Such an easy thing to do.
That's why we don't send them. So we present them. So we have the calls, we do the questions and stuff, and just to add to the kind of listening information, we do most of our pitches on Zoom. So I use Otter AI to record the Zoom, and then we've got all the information in there, and you can actually chat to Otter and say what language they use, what disc profile are they, and some of the elements out of there. So I actually create the introduction from that. But on the final Zoom that we do with them, it's a pitch presentation, it's a proposal presentation. So we screen share on Zoom better proposals, and we go through it and walk them through it. And anything that needs changing, we change it. And then when we finish, it gets sent within 10 minutes. It makes a massive difference. So they've already agreed to it. It's already there. And then I book a meeting in to onboard them. They've agreed to it on the Zoom. I send them a proposal, and then I've already onboarded them. I think it might be the Chinese that do it, where signing a proposal is just part of the ceremony. It's not actually saying yes or no. They've already agreed it. And that's what we've taken on board here. I don't send a proposal and just sort of, well, they're going to sign it in a minute. Like that's like I had it yesterday. Someone, we had an onboarding call booked. My partner was coming on the call, and she said, have they signed a proposal? I checked and I was like, no. So I emailed them and said, are we going ahead or not? Because the onboarding call's booked, and they signed a proposal immediately. I saw them open it. I saw them scroll down. I saw them click it, because they said they would sign a proposal before the meeting. So it's all agreed up front. So, but the timing thing is like, it's huge. If you can save that, I'll be interested in that data if it comes out as well, Adam, because that's I like a bit data.
Yeah. I'll send the reports across. They're all available on the website. If you scroll to the bottom of the Better Proposals website and click reports, there's about 5 years worth of data. But it's interesting to see it because it's one of the few constants. It's just not changed. So you've got a load of data about how many pages people use and the effect of people opening on mobile devices and stuff like that, which has all sort of changed over the last 5, 6, 7 years. But the one thing that's pretty much stayed constant is the effect of sending it quickly, and that's because it's a human thing, not a tech thing. But to your point, Todd, about the screen share thing, I mean, I know so many people that do that. It's a really, really good method of using Better Proposals for sure.
Even in real life, like I'll go and hook up to a machine and screen present the proposal there, because you're looking at the same thing. This is what I've realized since 2020 is this is a great way to do a sales conversation, because you can look at things and the client will say, yeah, well, our website's not really that great. Instead of like contextualizing it in your head and drawing on a whiteboard, you just put it on the screen and go, well, you mean this button here? Yeah. And you can actually talk about the same thing. And I find it such a fabulous tool that even when I'm out now, I'll plug in. And then I'll use Otter on my iPhone to record everything, because now I'll stop remembering things. I've got these robots following me around doing it all for me. So I need it.
Yeah, and it's also a lot about tackling objections on the spot. Like you can feel them when their enthusiasm drops, or when they have questions, and questions are so easy to turn into turn-offs, as Adam, you said. If they're confused, they're not buying. So but if you can fix that feeling of being confused on the spot, I guess it really increases your odds. Cool. Okay. I was another huge part of the whole proposal things is how much can you prove the value? How, because a prospect, if they can already feel and understand and feel on their own the promise that you're making them, get some bit of taste of that, it highly increases the chances, right? So my question is about how much do you showcase of the work that you provide, of what you could do for them in the actual proposal, or even before that?
So I think what you have to think about is where they're at mentally. They are about to make a big mistake if they get this wrong. And instead of thinking about it in terms of putting a case study in or showing a screenshot or whatever, just try and do the opposite. Try and think about it from their perspective first, and think they're about to make a $7,000 decision, a $10,000 decision, a $20,000 decision, whatever it is. What does that mean for them? Does that mean that they're going to be potentially like, is it like change for them, or are they going to be risking like not paying their mortgage? So try and understand it from that perspective. And when you do, you put that proof, that social proof, that evidence, whatever it is that they need, you put in the appropriate amount. And I mean, I'll give you an example. A guarantee is fantastic, right? A guarantee is absolutely brilliant. And I'd always try and recommend people use guarantees where you can. But you don't have to guarantee everything in the form of like a money back guarantee. So I'll give you an example from like way back in the day. So we used to sell custom software like years and years and years before Better Proposals. And it was, the price was somewhere around 20 grand, almost every time. And it was a massive ask. It was a small business. They wanted custom software. But we had to try and convince them to spend £20,000, which is really hard to do. So although they had no problem spending the money if it worked, it was the if it worked bit that they couldn't get their head around. They couldn't stretch to. So what we did was we said, okay, look, it's a 10% refundable deposit. So the 10% is going to be, we are going to go and design screens for 3 main flows, like that are going to be a problem in your business. So it's like, your sales order, your marketing system, whatever. We're going to redesign these screens. We're going to come back to you and we're going to show you exactly what these look like. And if we've not understood you, they might not be perfect, but if we've not understood you so much that you just think, no, absolutely not, no way, we'll give you your £2,000 back, no problem. And all we've done is spent a little bit of time on some sort of graphic design system. That's it. But if not, and we walk away from that meeting and you're happy, then you commit to the rest of it.
Okay.
But they, in their head, were like, oh, okay, it's only like a couple of grand. And it wasn't a massive decision in relation to the major price.
Yeah.
But it was breaking it down as that smaller chunk that we could guarantee. Because the alternative was say, oh, don't worry about it, commit to it, and we'll give you your £20,000 back if you don't like it. But that's unrealistic. Because if they believe £20,000 is a lot of money, they might think we don't have it. And to be fair, a lot of it would have gone on labour and we wouldn't have it. So it's so I think trying to break things down is a really good one from a guarantee point of view. But just try and put yourself in their mind and try and understand where they're at. And when you do that, everything's just so much easier.
Yeah, we asked the question, like, what does success look like in 3-6 months' time? What does success look like next year? Like, say to them, okay, David, let's say we're going to work together. In a year from now, what will have had to have happened for this to be a success? And you'd be amazed. Actually, the questions are often a lot lower par than you think they're going to be. They're not like, sell my business, be a millionaire, sit on a boat in pool. They're actually like, I just want some consistent content. I'd like my social media to be better than my competition, and the competition sucks. It's like, oh, it's easy. We can do that. Whereas if you go in and say, right, we guarantee you're going to do this, this, and this, and overreach yourself, and they're like, oh, I kind of only wanted a few emails and a bit of this, that, and the other. So it comes down again to just asking the right questions, really, and saying, well, what do you want? What will make you happy? Can we achieve that? Rather than we've got guarantees and case studies, and like Adam said earlier, with the case studies are relevant to the proposal. So if someone's asking for Facebook ads, the case study is based on Facebook ads. But I'm more of a fan of third-party stories. So if I'm talking to someone on Zoom and they ask me a question, I'll have, just because I'm used to it now, stories from clients and say, oh, we've got one client and they did this, this, and this, and we did this and it worked. And it's more real for them. It's even better when I can find a case study and put it in their proposal. It's the same person I was talking about. Try and stick to the same ones, otherwise I've got to furiously write it afterwards. But I think it's got to be tailored to them. But often, if you ask them, what does success look like, you'd be amazed. It's what they say.
To add to that real quickly, Todd, as well, if you ask that question, which is a brilliant question, by the way, if you ask that, you're then in line with them. Yeah. Because if you do what most people do and assume that everybody wants the moon, and then you start pitching that, and you're pitching up here, and they're thinking, actually, all I want is this, you might be thinking, oh, it's great, we're going to get you up here, we're going to get you up here, but maybe they don't want to. Maybe that's too much for them, too much of a stretch, too difficult, just too much.
Yeah, and they might think, oh, that's why it's expensive, because they're trying to get me to the moon, and I only want to go to Scotland. I'll just go somewhere else. You don't know what they're thinking unless you ask the questions, and that's why I'm a big fan of it.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That's enlightening. Really, I feel like the theme of this call is definitely ask the questions, and it sounds simple, but it's many times complex because you're trying to juggle too many things during interactions and sales calls, and it's really, if you just keep in mind that it's another human being, and you're just trying to get the bottom of whether a collaboration would be beneficial or not, then everything becomes a lot simpler. We have some questions piled up in the Q&A section, so I just want to make sure we get to them before we reach the end of this. So I'll start popping them up. So one question was about client red flags that you spot on the discovery call.
I think we've covered a few of them. No budget, maybe not a decision maker, shopping around, little bit guarded, that kind of thing. Right. And the other thing is it's just not a good match, which is why we're front and center with our brand all the time, and just we don't we don't cover anything up. Like, we're just like, this is how we do things, you know, would this work for you? I think that's the best way of doing it. Because yeah, there's in terms of red flags, I just think that they're just the usual things, you know, they can't make a decision, they can't buy from you, they're not ready yet. It's not really a red flag. It's not like you wouldn't date them or something. It's not like a big red flag. It's just not, maybe not for now, you know, just saves time going that way.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else to add here, Adam?
I'd just say professionalism. If somebody can't make a meeting on time without a solid reason or whatever, that's sort of a bit of maybe you give them another chance, but just lack of professionalism. Defensiveness over questions would be another one, I'd say. And demanding a proposal or information before a phone call.
Yep. We don't even do it.
Somebody's like, send me a proposal. Yeah.
Had that today.
Yeah. I mean,
prices. No.
I feel like growing up is saying no to that question. Like, that's maturity there. Absolutely not. Like, if somebody's asking for a proposal before they've invested any time in you, it's got to be equal. Equal.
Okay, great. On to the next one. We have, what does a pitch include actually? Like just pricing in our portfolio or ideas we suggest to them? Like any sample work or
it kind of depends. I mean, typically the skeleton of our proposals will always have an introduction, price table, T's and C's, case studies, and then obviously we chuck in the servicing. But it depends on the conversation we've had, you know, and if we've specifically talked about like a user journey or an email sequence, we will actually write that in there. You know, we've already talked about it. They've probably scribbled it down. We're not giving away mama's secret sauce. You know, it's like, so we put it in there so we can see that they've seen it. But there's just the obvious things, really. That the other thing we've done that's really important is the cover photo on Better Proposals. We always make sure that that photo is going to match their business. So we spend quite a lot of time finding a picture that matches them. We used to just put their logo on it. It was like, oh, that's a bit lazy. So now we go and find some kind of like cool image that matches it. I think there's a few image sites that Better Proposals uses, but that's made a real difference to us. So like a good cover, good intro, the price obviously, but then we just tailor those boxes in between it, really.
Okay. Okay.
No, that's all right. Go on.
Wasn't sure if you wanted to add anything. Okay.
No, I couldn't top it.
Cool. Pouring. Do you think it's appropriate to send a prospective client a form to answer some questions to better understand their needs, or is it better to discuss it one by one through email or messages?
We've contemplated doing this on our contact form on our website, just to sort of filter out spam initially, but just to sort of pre-qualify the call. But it's difficult because it's so cold and you're not there and you're not asking questions, and so we've never really done it. But
I don't like it. If you can't spend like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes on the phone to somebody that's new, that's in business, you've probably got a few commonalities. It's just a bit, I don't know, just sort of a bit dickish. I don't know how else to say it, really. Just sort of, it's a bit like, cold is probably the nicest way to put it, but it just doesn't feel great. I don't like that. If I'm showing an interest already. I've found your business. I've looked through your website. I've got my sort of head into sort of understanding that you might be able to help me fix my problem, and I'm trying to contact you, and you're making it really difficult. I've now got to jump through some extra hoops. Like, I don't know, unless your lead generation is so unbelievably brilliant that you literally need it as like a filtering mechanism, in which case you don't need us. You are fine. But yeah, you know, if you're in that situation, then fine. But other than that, if it's a normal flow of leads, like, nah, just get on the phone and talk to them, have a nice conversation, and if it doesn't go anywhere, you've had a nice chat.
And I guess
I don't like it.
That's why our first calls are so short, where they're 20 minutes. Just
exactly.
In case it's not going to go anywhere.
And you never know who these people are. You never know.
Yeah, worst case scenario, I guess you can make them even shorter. I mean, I've been on pre-qualifying calls of 10 minutes and I was fine with that. Like a quick, or what I've seen other companies do is that they set up the actual call, like the lengthy one of a half an hour, whatever it is necessary to discuss in details, but they call me beforehand to pre-qualify me like a few days in advance, like, hi, we have this call set up. I was just wondering, to get some details to make sure that we're right for each other, or not to waste an entire hour of your time or something. So if you are in that scenario, as Adam said, you're getting so many leads, you just can't fill, your calendar is fully booked, and a big percentage of that is not qualified enough or not relevant enough. There are tricks to do this pre-qualifying, or to limit the time that you spend in them.
Because it reduces the friction, and friction's awful. Like, you really don't want friction in business at all, whether it's a form, whether it's trying to get a signature from someone, whether it's like, questions and answers. Like, the less friction, the better. It feels so much nicer. So yeah, exactly. The answer you've just given there is perfect. Book the big call in, which is what they're after, then interject in the middle without them necessarily agreeing to that part. But it seems like a nice thing to do, and then you can clear out anything that's and if it's a total car crash, then you can cancel it. But yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, okay. The next question is interesting because it goes a bit into the follow-up area, which we didn't touch at all in this call. So Ivan asks, how many times would you say it's appropriate to call when they have stated that they don't need the service you're offering? And I guess we can expand the answer on emails as well. Like, how persistent are you when you follow up?
Say don't call again, and you call them again, you're a bit of a dickhead. Yeah, don't.
Yeah,
Don't. Move on, man.
If they said no, move on. Like, you can't lose what you never had. Move on to the next one. I think that's why it was all about, we're trying to filter out all the time, and if they say no at that early stage, it's fine. Let them go. There'll be more coming your way.
What about the ones that ghosted, that you still don't have a reply? How much do you continue asking them for a clear answer?
We have a 3-step process. We do it with them not turning up to a call as well. So if you ghost us twice on the Zoom call, that's it. We cancel the call. But if we're following up and they really were genuinely interested and something went wrong, we go for 3 times, and the third email is basically pre-written, and it's like, this obviously isn't the right time for you. So the last time we'll email you, we're just letting you know that we're closing the file on this particular proposal. If we've got this wrong, let us know. We get loads of replies to that, because if they really are just waiting, your email was just reminding me to get back to you. We've all done that as well. Like, I need to do that. I'll wait for them to email me again. We all do that. We do that. We're notification led, aren't we? So if they're really, really interested, they were definitely doing it, and everything else, you did everything right, then fair enough, follow up a little bit. But if it was a hard no, well, I just leave them.
Okay. Okay, we have another one.
Gut feeling.
Yep, sorry.
Feeling. No, go for it. I was just agreeing.
Yeah. I know the ghosting process is the most, it's frustrating for me. I'm always like, but we talked. How can you not even give me an answer? It gets personal a bit at some point.
Look, I'll add something to that. I mean, look, we've all used LinkedIn, and I can't tell you how sad it seems when people are moaning about somebody ghosting them or not replying when they've put like an hour's effort into the conversation. Man, come on, it's business. Grow up, like, move on. Have an abundant mindset. Like, get really, really, really good at lead generation. Just get a lot of conversations going. Just have a ton of good quality conversations every day, and I promise you will not give a toss about any of these.
Amen.
Like, you don't care. You just don't care. It's just move on quicker. Just move on quicker. Don't dwell on it. It doesn't matter. There's so many people opening businesses now. It doesn't matter. Move on.
Yeah, totally agree. It's something you learn though, isn't it, Adam? You learn that because when you start out, you're like, please, someone like me. And I was there 12 years ago. I was like, someone please say yes. But now it's like, actually, someone said no, great. That means someone else on this board over here is going to say yes. It's great. Let's go.
Yeah. Okay. Amen. It all it sounds like the right direction is just to keep going and grow up, which is sound advice. And it can, if it lands in the right moment, it can really feel like the right piece of advice you need that day. Okay, now I've got a bit of a tough one for you, I think. So Amina is sharing that I'm having a hard time getting clients to agree to my rates as they outsource to India and Pakistan and other countries. I am based in Dubai. What do you do in that situation when you're compared? And I guess it goes a bit into the competition subject overall when they just say, you get the replies of, I found someone cheaper. So
yeah,
how
sometimes
do you do that?
I don't know whether it's a price thing. I think you don't always buy on price, like, because if you did, most people wouldn't use an iPhone. It's the classic story, isn't it? Because the iPhone is actually not the best phone, and yet it's the more expensive one. I think if someone's outsourcing to India and Pakistan and they're happy with that, we've done that with elements of ours, and the product we get is great. Why would you use UK, Dubai, US? Because it's more expensive, unless the quality of the service you're getting is better, the experience is better, there's more things you get from that. Otherwise, if you just compare like for like, then compare like for like. But if people only bought on price, there would be one car. That would be it. Like, everyone just buy the cheap car, but they don't buy the cheap car. They buy the car that they want to have. And I think when you're, especially if you're selling services, and I don't know what the question, what the company does, but we're definitely not the cheapest. We're not the cheapest here, like in my town, but people choose us, and that's okay because they want to work with us, not someone else.
Yeah.
Well, just do some competitive analysis and just like really basic and have a think. Like, what is it that, if people are outsourcing to sort of India, Pakistan, whatever, like what does that service typically look like? Like, are they getting face-to-face meetings? Probably not. Remote. What are some of the tendencies for services like that? Generally, don't stick to a time frame. Usually try and work change the spec somewhere, between in the job. So what can you do to guarantee that you won't do that? Because if you can talk to those issues that that people are going to face, without necessarily directly calling them out, but you can talk to them and strengthen your marketing around not doing those things, then you don't need to call it out. You're just it. So yeah, I mean, it's just like, also, if you're that confident it's not that great, just tell them to go use them and you'll speak to them in 6 months. That's a far cooler answer.
Yeah.
It's sometimes really reflective of how confident you are with your numbers and your price. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're pricing too high if you're not confident enough, but you need to get that confidence somewhere. Because otherwise you're going to have such a hard time pitching it and standing behind the numbers that you pitched afterwards in a negotiation or a conversations. And if you fold like immediately and give a, 60% discount after that's gonna set you up for a very healthy relationship, right?
Yeah, just don't discount. Just don't do it. Just don't do any discounting ever. Just, if you can eliminate discounting as even just a word in your vocabulary, just do it.
What about negotiations? Like, not discount, but they give you something like drop some service or drop some frequency.
Great question.
Or do something.
Yes, exchange something. If they want to get the price down, then they have to give up something.
Yeah,
right. That can be a part of the job. It could be look, what would be super valuable, right? A really well shot professional case study video. They last forever, right? Absolutely amazing. So that's a really good one. They're really, really good. You get 2 or 3 of those done a year and you look like $1 million all the time. So if you can trade, if somebody comes along and says, look, I can't really afford 10, but I'd only really budgeted 8. You go, look, not going as low as 8, but I'll tell you what, I'll meet you in the middle at 9, but I want a favor from you. I want a couple of hours of your time to sit down and do a video case study. I'll send a videographer. Be nice and easy, I promise. Won't be a problem. But if you can do that, then we're good. Done. Yeah. Easy. Everyone wins.
Make them do anything back to keep the relationship on a plain level.
Because you're keeping yourself on equal stature at the start. Otherwise, they're beating you over the head with the price, taking you down. They're winning, you're losing, and it's not about winning and losing. But you want to both go into it with an agreement that you trust each other. And if they're like, we don't trust you to deliver on that price, let's put the price down, or whatever that is, it's not a great way to start a relationship. It just isn't.
Yeah. And it goes like on other levels as well. Like, if you fold it and if you give a huge discount from the beginning, like from the smallest hesitation, then you create actually a huge distrust, because they're like, oh, so the initial price that you gave me was just like you just tried it with me, right? So what does
Yeah.
that tell me about you? How honest are you from the beginning with your prices, with your thoughts? I mean, will I have to check on you every single step of the way?
Very
Yeah.
fine.
Although I did learn
Mm.
there's a culture thing that there's some cultures around the world who like to banter and barter. So you have to
Yeah,
go in high,
true.
and they tell you to go in high so they can banter and barter. And
That's
I'm
true
like,
as well.
oh, that's kind of weird, but cool. I'm actually going to charge this much. Yeah, just charge this much, and then we'll just beat you down to this. I'm like, okay, that's kind of weird. I'm still not okay with it because I'm still like, they still sort of did a bit of beating, even though it was an
Yeah,
agreed beating. It's a weird thing to do, but it's a cultural thing. So, you know.
yeah, I get it. Well, this was been such a blast. We're already past the time. That only shows how much fun we had, and we have several other questions in the chat, but we didn't manage to go through all. Maybe we'll do some sort of follow-up after this. Maybe I'll send you guys the question and we can do like a wrap-up article or something. Because it's clear that there are so many confusing parts about pitching and proposing. And yeah, we could talk for hours and hours about this. Thank you everyone so much for joining live and for being so engaging, so many questions, so many comments in the chat. This has been so cool. And thanks Todd and Adam for joining and dropping your wisdom live here.
No worries.
Thanks so much for having us. Really appreciate it. It's been really cool.
Awesome. Have a good one. Bye guys.
Nice one.
Cheers.
See you later.